All right, so let's get this thing rolling. Oh, welcome to episode 2 of the Blank Page podcast.
Welcome, Claudio, and I am Matthew.
Very cool. Yeah, thanks for joining me.
Happy to be back.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, for this one, if you don't mind, I want to propose a starter press. Uh, Why the Blank Page podcast?
Why the Blank Page podcast? So, personally, this began with us meeting leading up to the presentation that we're going to give for Improving Tech Friday, right? And we had a meeting on the calendar every Thursday. After our presentation was over, it's like there isn't a use for that kind of meeting because the point of the meeting was to prepare for the presentation. So we took that time to say, hey, why don't we just continue this? And I think I even mentioned to you, I said, I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss meeting up with you, spending an hour
Yeah.
and sharing our ideas. So you were like, why don't we continue and maybe even turn this into a podcast? And that's how we landed here.
That's how we landed here.
Yes.
So that's good. That was the question. It was one part of the question,
Yes.
right? So this is how the podcast idea started. What about the name?
Oh, the name.
Why the Blank Page?
This came out of another conversation that we had, which turned into a blog post. You know, I would routinely face a blank page when I sat down to create content, as we all do. So, at the very beginning of I'll say, rollback. We have a build in public meeting that happens on every Friday.
Right. So we call it the thought leadership building pulse.
That's right. One of the action items that came out of that meeting was for me to begin building in public, writing in public. So I started a Substack, and I quickly ran into an issue. Like, okay, what do I write about? I have I have all these ideas, but like, how do I just get started? And it was a blocker in some ways. So I talked to you about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things that you told me that it took me a while to wrap my mind around is, oh, I never sit down and face a blank page. And I'm like, tell me more. Right. And then you connect to the screen in our conference room and you show me this whole world of content that you already have. Right. Some of it lives in Obsidian. Some of it lives in the Notes app. Some of it lives in old blog posts.
Yeah.
And you draw from this to create new content.
Yeah.
In addition to that, you'll do walks around the block or whatever, or even at home in your neighborhood. You will record yourself just talking through ideas. You do the same thing as you're driving home.
Yes.
And this all lends to creation of new content. So I guess one of the main takeaways was start with your voice. Get the ideas out. They don't have to be polished right away, at least, and go from there.
100%.
So to tie it all together, how did we arrive at the name for this? Yeah, out of that conversation.
Good.
Yes.
So was it from because you suggested that and I'm like, yep, I'm all in for it.
Yes.
So is it like the idea that it's like a constant reminder that we do not have to face a blank page?
It is. Okay. And even this podcast that we're doing right now, we didn't come into this with some idea of, okay, here's the itinerary, here's the outline. We're going to do this segment, that segment. We have some list of items that we plan to discuss. There's nothing. This is literally a blank page. And how do we get started? With our voice.
Yep.
Asking questions and answering it.
So yeah, thanks. And I do want to tap on that. And it's funny because like on the one hand, yeah, we do not have like a script that we're following a structure or anything. We show up and we talk. So we may consider as it's a blank page, but we have so much floating around that it's not going to be blank for too long.
That's right.
So it does not freak us out. It's like, yeah, get us a blank canvas because we have a lot of paints that we're going to not necessarily like beautifully go or as I know, we're going to throw the paints at it and see what shows up.
So, to that end, maybe the painting looks abstract at first.
And then you get that abstract is like, what do you see? Since as oh, I like that because then you have that conversation. Like maybe you see a rabbit and I see a cat.
Yes.
Whatever. I see something completely different and that sparks conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. I really do. Yes. Yes, yes, yeah, and, for, folks listening, when I mention, like, I never, faced a blank page, later, as I pondered that, and thank you for bringing that up, that was something that resonated because I didn't, like, even it made me think a little bit more about it, where later I made a correction. So I added, "I never face a blank page anymore."
Anymore. Yes.
Because I used to.
Yeah.
It was the kind of thing, right? Yeah, you start from scratch, like, "Oh, I need to write a paper for school, or I need to do whatever it is." Boom, blank page. You freak out. You don't know where to. So I've run into that. And the system that you saw, like the way I collect things and everything, it has come from that. It's like, okay, it does not have to be that hard. It's not like I don't have ideas.
Yes.
It's not like I don't have opinions. It's not like I'm not learning anything. As long as I'm doing something and I'm trying to pay attention to what I'm doing, I should better be learning something out of it.
Right.
Right? It's like those are all sources of material. Right? And then once you put that somewhere that you can later connect those, that was part of my realization. It's just not every idea is great.
Right.
And I don't want to keep them. The other thing that I've learned to say over the years, like, we say, "Oh, I keep that at the back of my mind." Like, don't do that. Because if you keep pushing everything at the back of your mind, it's going to get very cluttered.
Yes.
And you're not going to find anything there. So get it out. So I've taught myself to do the same. If I'm about to say, "Oh, I'm going to put that at the back of my mind," I'm like, give me a moment. Let me put that out so that's out of my mind, someplace that,
We can do something with it. You can organize it.
yeah, because I built that into a system, if later, maybe like 2 years later, I go like, you know what? I think I've had an idea similar to that. Let me look.
Yes.
Because then I was like, yeah, it's part of my system. If it was an idea that at one point I thought, maybe that could be a good idea. I don't know. It's an idea right now. If it's good or bad, it sounds like it may be good. But I wrote it down. And then later, and it's so rewarding later, like searching through my files here, I was finding something that's like, oh, actually that looks pretty good right now. When did I write that? But that was 3 years ago, and I forgot about that. And maybe it was good because, as I said, maybe like years go by, and when I take another look at it, sometimes it's like, oh, now I know even more about it. I had
Yes.
even better opinions or support around that. Or, like, yeah, good thing I didn't pursue that because that was a dumb idea.
Right. I mean, but you didn't have the benefit of hindsight at that point in time.
Right.
This is why I like the idea of a second brain.
Yeah.
In some respects, traveling to see an old piece of work that you've written 3 years ago is a form of time traveling.
It is.
Especially if you write consistently, because if you're doing a search for something specific and you find that writing, you get to see everything that was written around that same time period.
Yeah.
And you kind of get to put yourself back to where you were. What's the
Yes.
benefit of all of your future experiences?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me share. I like that you touched on that because part of this system for me, it started over 20, I say like 24, 25 years ago when I started like collecting ideas electronically
Yeah.
like that, because we started getting tools to do that. Uh, and it consolidated for me back around 2009 using Evernote at the time, which was a way for me to like find ideas out there on the internet that would save into Evernote, right? And then I would add my own ideas and everything. And then oftentimes I would go back and review some of the ideas. And I enjoyed, I think still Evernote still does that, where I would go to an idea, I would find the idea, and because of the filtering and everything, it would bring into context what other notes did I have around the time? Where was I? Because it would do the geolocation. Like, oh, sometimes it's like, I remember when I traveled to Germany, wrote down some stuff. What is that?
Yeah.
I go there and I find all that context. It works great. Now, when I made the shift into Obsidian, I still use Evernote, but in a different manner.
Okay.
So as I run into things, it's like, oh, that's an interesting article. I may want to explore that a little bit more or whatever. those, I clip them and I dump them into Evernote. So I'm almost like sorting all of this information and I'm throwing it there
Yes.
because that's not, when I think of that, that's not my personal knowledge management. If I'm just clipping stuff from the web and dumping it there, it's not my knowledge.
Yes.
It's somebody else's knowledge that I saw it. I have that information. I dump it there. I still have not really consolidated it in my own mind. So it's not my knowledge system, right? So I started seeing Evernote from that perspective because that's how I was using it, like dropping stuff there. Yes, I would like maybe create a new note to write a new blog post or something like that, but the making of those connections was not as seamless. With Obsidian, that's how I've been using it. It's the place where I go and it's like, yeah, I put some seeds for ideas. I may put link to external resources that I might want to have, but that's where I'm really turning that information into knowledge, right? It's a different approach to it. And then in Obsidian, I'm using the same thing where because of like linking things, and I tend to link with I link to my daily notes
Yes.
so that when I go to the local graph, I can have out this idea I started tracking here. It was logged on this date. Let me look at the local graph, and it shows me everything leaking out or into that node. I can see, oh, out of that, I was also reading that book,
Yes.
and I'd made some notes there. And then I was in a meeting with Matthew, and we talked about this other thing here. It's like, woo, that is the context.
Yes.
Right where I want to go from there.
That's interesting. And it goes back to the conversation that we always have about AI and how useful people find it to be. And the difference between, let's say, you and a person who doesn't really like what they get out of it is usually what they're feeding into it, how much context they're giving it.
Yeah.
So being able to, have this orchestration of applications that you're using that you're able to then contextualize whatever this idea that you're trying to pursue is, um, it gives you more information to work with.
Yeah.
It does. And I think we should think about AI in the same way. Instead of just giving it a prompt with no additional information, you're not going to get useful output. I mean, you can, depending on what you're doing. Like if you're, tell me what's the best shoe if I have this foot condition or whatever,
Right.
you'll get some good results. But if there's something that requires a little bit more nuance, then the more context you give it, the better your output's going to be.
Yes. Yeah. I like that. I like that. And then going back to like the idea of a blank page, I like like if we follow this approach, we are empowered to say, if I do not have to be afraid of facing a blank page and not knowing what to do. If you have a supporting system where it's like, I can draw from a lot of stuff, or I can say, yeah, I drew from all that stuff. I cannot see connections. Get it all out. Give me another blank page
Yes.
because I want to start from scratch. But I want to do that
Intentionally.
intentionally,
Yeah.
right? By choice. Like
At that
that
point when
was,
it's an option
yes,
as opposed to, where I was, where it's like every time, no matter what, unconditionally even, I'm facing a blank page.
right.
So yes, I love this idea of being able to have content that you can already draw from and do something new with it.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's our upcycling.
it is. Yeah, yeah. I like that. By the way, great set of blog posts on MDSs.
Yeah.
I really like talk about that blog post. It came out what, like 2 days ago, or was it this night?
I actually wrote it on Sunday. Okay, I released it on Sunday. So I was usually because I want to get this in front of the biggest audience possible. It just makes more sense to set a schedule or a timer when this is released. And it traditionally wouldn't have been like a Monday at 10 o'clock or whatever. Something arbitrary because I don't put a whole lot of focus into figuring out like when is the biggest audience going to be available to see my thing if I post it at this specific time. So
Right.
instead of dealing with that, I said, okay, I'm finished writing this and it's late on a Sunday. I'm going to just post it right now. So I posted it to Substack. I made a companion post on LinkedIn, and that was it. But to the content, this is mostly about people's um, desire to conceal that they're using tools.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I like to like hazard a guess at why things like this are happening. But I also like to talk to people. Yes, like to get a better understanding. And I want to avoid the scenic route, which means I want to talk to people in high trust environments where there is a certain vulnerability, where people are going to say, "Hey, this is why I feel this way about not letting people know I'm using these tools."
Right.
And some of the things that I heard, because I try to talk to people as much as possible about these topics. Some of the things that I heard is, well, it makes me feel good that the content that I am putting out, um, being higher quality, is associated with my own intellect instead of it appearing that I'm getting help from elsewhere. Um, Another thing is people are afraid that if they do post something that is higher quality, there's going to be this suspicion like, oh, I don't recall you using these words. Like, this isn't what you say.
Big words, dude.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and we don't see this kind of thing happening in the office, thankfully, because we're called improving. And yeah, imagine, imagine if you make some blog post and I come to you like, Claudio, this does not sound like you. It's really well written, right? This doesn't ring true to the things that I hear you say.
Yes.
It kind of traps people in amber in a way, like where it's like you're not allowed to grow. You're only allowed to be what I expect you to be. You're not allowed to improve. And I don't think that's where we should be. So I think, if anything, if we are generating content, let's say it's voice driven at first, and then we refine it using these LLMs, and it produces something that is well written, um, I think the idea should be that we can use that as a learning opportunity. We should integrate the language that we're seeing there into our everyday language. If this is something that rings true or resonates with us and how we want to, have a better command of the language, for example, I don't think we should say, okay, it produced this document and it reads this way, but I want to like reshape it into something that sounds closer to how I sound because I don't use these words. And I don't want people to think that, whatever. Like, I think it's silly, to be honest, but I understand it. And I empathize with it. No one wants to like come off as being inauthentic,
Right.
but I would push back to say, if something is being produced and you're reworking it, away from what it originally was, even sacrificing the clarity of the piece,
Yeah.
that's not authenticity. It's inauthentic.
So, yeah, I love that. Let's explore that because that's a topic I ponder a lot on. So, an analogy that I'm drawing here is, for example, English not being my primary language. Sure, oftentimes I struggle with things. It's like I know exactly, like I have the image that I'm trying to convey, but I'm failing to find the right. Sometimes not just the right words, but even the right way to say it. Like
Yes.
I know that oftentimes I say things out loud that like all the words are proper, the grammar is proper. It's like, yeah, we wouldn't say it that way,
Yes.
right? So let's say that I'm preparing some contents to present to executives, right? I have everything down, but I say, Matthew, can you help me here with the English here? Because I need to give this presentation. And then you're going to help me like look over my thoughts.
Yes.
And you're likely going to say, well, maybe this, it makes sense. But if you're speaking to like executives, rephrase it like this,
Yes.
right? I mean, I should still be fine with that. If you give me like a word that I'm like, I don't even know what that word means. Help me understand so I can make it my own. And if I cannot, what is an alternative? Because I'm like, I don't feel comfortable saying that word because it's like it's not resonating with me. I cannot make it my own, right? So that's like using the help of another human,
Yes.
right, to refine language, learn, grow our vocabulary, and how to find different ways, perspectives to convey the same message through the same language. Well, why can't we use AI for that? So the point that you are making of, yeah, let's leverage the tool. This is something I've been noticing where a few months ago, I went through going over all of my blog posts through like 20 years of blogging, like over 500 blog posts. I dumped it all into ChatGPT. And from there on, I started asking it to draft blog posts based on the way that I write.
Yes.
And yeah, it for maybe a few weeks or maybe even a couple of months, it would come back with some things that I'm like, I'm reading through it. It's like, yeah, I have never used those words in my life.
Yes.
I don't know what they mean. Or I know what those words are, but they are not part of my active vocabulary, part of my passive vocabulary, not my active one. Right. And then oftentimes like, okay, that sounds like an interesting word. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna ask, hey, what does that mean? And then I get to make the decision. Do I want to stick with that word because I just have learned a word that I will make it my active word? Or it's like, no, dude, I'm not using that word.
Yes.
It's interesting.
I mean, that's the beauty of language.
It is.
When it comes to communicating ideas, we have multiple options to draw from and to utilize.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we're writing with the intent for other people to consume what we're writing, the star of the show, in addition to the content, the co-star is the ability to communicate the idea effectively.
Yeah. 100%.
When I speak outside of this environment, I speak very informally. That's how I have spoken for almost the entirety of my life. I'm 38 years old.
Right.
And I come from an environment where we speak a non-standard English.
Gotcha.
And I am completely fine with it. But I understand that this is not a version of English that I can speak in a setting like this because
Right.
I'm going to immediately introduce a level of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because this non-standard dialect of English that I speak outside of work is comprised of English words. But some of the rules of this non-standard language are different. So you may believe that you're understanding what I'm saying because the words are in English, but the idea that I'm attempting to communicate is being lost on you.
Yes. Yes. Like the idea, the intention gets lost. Yes, I see that. I've had experiences like that in the past, writing lyrics to songs, right? When I was in a band. And I would come up with some lyrics, and every so often, like even though I had already been thinking in English, I was not doing the translation in my mind. I was already thinking in English, but I would like reach out to a word. It's like, okay, is that a word in English? Because then at that point, like the word in Brazilian Portuguese would come to mind. It's like it would sound like an English word. Let me look it up. Oh yeah, it is a word in the dictionary. I would put that in the lyrics, and then I would get one of my bandmates, who was an American, say, "You like using big words, don't you? Like, why do you say that?" Well, that word I didn't even know. I had to look up on a dictionary because I felt like, well, the guy was ESL here, English as a second language. Know that word. So what is that word? And so that drew me at least for the following. The thing that he said, oh, that's a big word. Like in Brazilian Portuguese, in São Paulo more specific, it's a fine word. It's a word that we use all the time.
Yes.
But as it turns out, not in English. I mean, valid English word was like, yeah, that's like, whoo, that's brainy kind of language. We don't use that here. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the United States is so big. Brazil is as well.
Yeah.
So like you could be in Rio, for example, versus where you come from, and
Yeah.
the language will be different.
That's why I said in Brazilian Portuguese, São Paulo more specific.
That's right.
Because I know. Yeah.
So you could be in New York and different set of language might be used there versus us being down here in the South. Yeah. Thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, language is fun. And if you are doing an artistic pursuit, like writing can be artistic. Like if you're writing a poem, for example, like maybe style is more important than communicating the idea because you want to be a little more vague. You want to leave some room for the user or the reader or the human in the loop to arrive at their own conclusion about what it is you're trying to convey. Where instead of it being like right on the nose, for example, and language can be fun in that way. But again, it depends on the audience ultimately. Knowing your audience, knowing who you're speaking to. Chelsea, you and I alike have been musicians. Me more on the amateur level, but And when I write, it's and when I'm writing music, like I am so not concerned with my language being the most accessible. That's not my desire. Like,
Yeah, and really on our goal,
it
right?
depends on my goal. And more often than not, in this artistic arena, I am trying to convey an emotion.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yes. I like that. Well, so there are two things that are coming to mind. See if I can get them both. One is the differences between poems and lyrics, which was something that I was like investigating maybe 1 or 2 years ago, but that's came that for a little bit. Just I want to go back to the M dash use, right? Because I really enjoyed their blog post there because yeah, I know that like guilty as charged. Like when I see like too many M dashes on something that I tell, an LLM, yeah, draft a blog post out of this or draft content, and I see like there's yeah, because like I've known I use them dashes kid learning Portuguese in Brazil. It's something in the language that's there for us to use. But when I see overuse, it's like, yeah, that's but as far as like using AI to create content,
yeah,
there are things like I am totally personally against the idea of like getting AI to produce contents that I may put out as one of my blog posts
yes,
on a topic I know nothing about.
that's right. Yes,
So I go like, well, how are mints made? Hello, whatever LLM.
yeah,
Write an article, a blog post about how mints are made. And then I put that out. Like,
yes,
no, I am not doing that because I know nothing
yeah,
about it. When I'm took 100% off the when I've been doing that a lot is okay, I have all of these ideas that I'm putting out.
get them out.
And I've been doing a lot of like when I give talks, I get the transcription of my talk,
That's right.
all my content. I say, draft the blog post follows this.
That's right.
Because at that point, it's not reaching out to do anything else unless I tell it, like
Yeah,
research on this topic and give like a formal definition of that term or whatever. Other than that, no, it's my stuff. So I look at it as like, is this something I would say?
yeah,
And it's been getting to a point because as I make corrections and it sees the corrections, it kind of already knows what kind of
yeah, yeah.
corrections I'm going to make. So as it comes back, now,
It's good.
yeah, it's like, it's something I would totally say.
So, give the example of someone creating some content, even if it is based on something that they originally made. For example, you gave the example of giving a talk, uh, transcribing it, and feeding it into some LLM and saying, draft me a new piece of content from this.
Yep.
So, this is all of your original content that you're creating something new from.
Yeah,
It's drawing from you and what you said.
great.
So imagine that this piece of content that it produces is littered with M dashes. How do you determine how to get rid of them? And more importantly, what to replace them with?
Ah, that's good. So I hold on. I'm positive that people who really understand literature and the fears of the language and all that, they would be able to explain. The way I see it, I go with the feel like based on the sentence and the context to then make a decision. Do I want to chop the sentence here, use a period, and start a new sentence?
Yeah.
Do I want to add a new line and start as a different thought? That's where my mind goes. And maybe I'm thinking about rhythm. And that's the science too. So I'm thinking of the rhythm. It's like,
Yes.
do I want to like hit a pause here so that the reader will go like, take that in first.
Right.
There's a line break, then we start moving. So that's where my mind has been going with that.
Okay.
The whole thing about the AI loves doing that. Like, this thing is not this, it is that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, well, maybe here I've already seen this pattern before. Let's just go straight to the point. You don't tell me what it isn't. Tell me what it
What it
is.
is. Yeah.
Right? Like trust the reader. The reader already got it.
Yes.
Right?
So, I, I would, I suspect that when people see this content generated and there's a bunch of M dashes, their first instinct is these M dashes have to go. First and foremost, they have to go. What we replace them with is negotiable, but they have to go.
Yes.
So maybe it will be a comma, maybe it will be a period, maybe it's just erased. And also, or again, like maybe not even a semicolon. And the reason is people are trying to avoid creating pieces of work that do not look like things that they've written.
Mm. Yeah.
So maybe the M dashes, as they are when the content is originally drafted, is the best way to express this idea, is the best way for this sentence structure to flow.
True. Because it's a draft.
But ditching them might sacrifice the quality of the piece of work. Because maybe the M dash is more appropriate here than the comma or the period.
True.
In terms of the flow of the sentence.
Yeah.
But the more important idea in people's minds when they're ditching these M dashes is they have to go because people are going to know that I had some assistance in writing this. And that's even a charitable read. Most people might even say, oh, hey, I wrote that for this. And they want to avoid that.
Yeah. So, yes. So that's gonna bring me back to another point that I want to connect to this. A few months ago, I finished reading Seth Godin's Is His Strategy.
Yeah.
Okay. The very beginning of the book, where he's just like setting down the foundation of what the book is about, it does mention something about how he used Claude to help creating that book.
Yes.
And how he encourages people to do the same. Right. And so I read it, it's like, oh, that's cool that he said that. Then I got into the contents and I eating the contents. Like, this is so good. I totally forgot that he made that comment about it because the content was like, and it screamed and yelled Seth Godin's contents because of reading his other stuff. It's like, yeah, this sounds like him. It's all his stuff. It's the way he communicates it all. And M dashes and stuff were there, right? And I get to the end. He reminds the reader. I told you at the beginning that I've used Claude to help me with this content. I encourage you, the reader, to push these questions that I'm proposing in some of these chapters through your own thinking.
Yes.
Using, AI to help you expand that.
Yes.
So, but the point that I'm going back to it is like, yeah, I saw the M dashes there, but it absolutely did not bother me because everything else I could like see Seth Godin actually saying those,
Yes.
right? As opposed to, and I guess it speaks to the what you're saying. If you do know the person who generates that content and how they talk and everything, and you see something that was heavily like AI generated, it does not connect with the person,
Yeah.
then puts me off because it's like that. Yeah, it's oh my goodness, right?
Who is this person?
Yeah, it's like what is this? It does not connect. It basically that's just thinking for me. So I get used to somebody and I know how they think, how they talk, their ideas, and I'm seeing that content. It does not reflect that person. That turns me off.
I don't think that's just a you thing. I think it's a very human thing to expect patterns.
True.
And if one piece of work that you've written, if I've consumed a lot of your other work, a pattern has been established.
Yeah.
Like I have an idea of what I expect you to sound like or write like. And if there's a new piece of content that is ostensibly written by you that deviates from that pattern, it's going to trigger an alarm. Yeah, that's a very human thing.
It is.
But we must also hold space for the idea that just because I was writing like this in the past doesn't mean that it's going to carry into the future that way in perpetuity.
True.
Give me space to grow and write and write better.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, it's a tricky situation. There's a lot of nuance there. If you've abandoned your entire voice in favor of something that's completely generated by AI, that's not good. Yeah, that's not good. Even if it, satisfies this checkbox of, okay, it communicates the thought that I wanted to convey to the user or the reader, I but if it completely abandons who you are, like all of us have our unique experiences, and those experiences, live experiences, they inform the way that we communicate and how we show up in the world.
Yeah.
And they're tied to you. So when I hear something from you, I know, oh, that's Claudio because been around, you've heard a lot of your content. For example, and this is a crude example, silly example, if you're being targeted in a phishing campaign and someone calls your phone and it sounds like one of your family members, their voice does, but they're saying things that don't really ring true to how they talk, even though it's in their voice. Right. It's going to trigger an alarm.
Yeah.
My cousin doesn't talk that way. I'm like, what is this? And then, later on you realize this was a phishing attempt. But
Yeah.
again, a very human thing to notice how people communicate and expect them to continue to communicate in that way. But I just think we should be less rigid about it when it comes to things like writing. Uh, when the stakes are a little bit lower, is what I would say.
Well, and that is like the whole like adjusting like the blog posts I put on my personal blog versus the ones I put on the Fruities blog. I choose deliberately a slightly different voice, right? Because, well, if it's coming through improving, it's under the improving
Yeah,
banner, right? It's from a company, an organization, so there's a voice. It's not like vastly different from the way I normally talk.
yeah,
It's just adjusted to the crowd that we think are going to come through that source.
yes,
As opposed to my personal blog, that's one of the reasons why I keep my personal blog. It's like, wow, that I'm just a little bit more relaxed,
yeah,
right? It's like, okay, maybe this is not like completely polished, right? It's just like I've been having these ideas, I'm exploring these ideas. Here they go, right? They're a little bit like crude, but it's what they are. It's why I started my blog 20 plus years ago
yeah,
for just getting those things out. So that, the back of my head here, back of my mind stays, tidy.
yes.
That was the idea.
I think that's a good takeaway. This idea of, putting things at the back of your mind and creating a situation that is unmanageable. When it is time to communicate and you want to reach for those ideas, crawl through a whole bunch of mess. Yeah. So get them out. And I think that's the way you said you used Evernote, where it's these are not things that are your thoughts just yet, but things that may have piqued your interest. And you're like, hey, I'm gonna sit this here for now because I plan to revisit it. And if this is something I want to pursue even further, maybe it does make it into Obsidian, where my knowledge base actually is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly the right idea. Cool. And yeah, and then it's I said there's this other thing that we may want to explore a little bit. A few years ago, when I was doing some digging, like literally, I was searching, Google search at that time. I was not doing AI search at that time, but what's the difference between poem and song lyrics?
Yes.
I'm like, I'm not sure. And the reason why, what got me thinking about that, I took Ryan Holiday's Read to Lead challenge, right? Different ways to become a better reader.
Yes.
And one of the modules there is to read some poems, a poetry book. And I'm like, yeah, I don't, by then I had not read any book on poetry,
Yeah.
period. I'm like, okay, why have I not? I do not know. It's like, I asked myself, well, why? I don't know. Like, well, let me look up some poems on the internet and see if anything resonates. And I found something that's like, oh, that's good. Okay. Oh, all right. That's good.
Yeah.
And then I saw a few videos of people like reciting their poems. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh. And then I started like getting goosebumps. And then I was like, okay, that person, the only thing that person has with them is their words and how they're delivering, how they're pacing, the rhythm of those words, and they're causing a reaction. I'm like, okay, that is good. Let me look a little bit more into it. And then as I researched, and then apparently it's like it's somewhat controversial. Like how close those things are, because as I was reading through some of those poems, I'm like, weirdest thing, in my mind, I was reading those words and I was hearing music. It's like I felt like picking up my guitar and playing something based on what I was feeling
Right.
of the words that I was reading. So I thought, oh, wait a minute. So I could use that for lyrics to a song. And then I looked at some of the lyrics that I wrote and I said, okay, if I take the music out,
Does it then become a poem?
yeah, because it's like, okay, there are some like profound ideas there. I'm proud of them. And it's like it was written to make people stop and think about it. It's like, how is it different then?
Mm. So what did you find?
My own interpretation, the way I'm seeing is I can see, I can hear music that the songs were written, right? They got the music down and then just slap words on it. Like no meaning, no nothing. It's just like those are just words that sound good in that context. And I know that I have started lyrics to songs like that, where I have the music and I was called ba ba da, "You be meeting ba 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 ba," the sky. It's like I hear I need a word that sounds like sky. I write that down and then I write melodies. And then from there, it's like, okay, I don't want to just use random words that the sound work. What does the music make me feel? And then I start writing words that match the feel of the music that have that kind of sound.
Yes.
Whereas when I'm like reading poems, my mind goes into like, I would like to write music for this and use those words on some proper music. So it may have to do, so what did I make out of it? Whether it's music or poem, they have to make me feel something. They have to make me like put something down and go like, oh, okay, that's a thinker. That's profound. So that one, it's like, is it a poem? Is it song lyrics? Like, I don't care. It made me feel something. It made me think about something. What is that? And then I explore that.
That brings a song to mind. And it's a song you know, and it's a song you've even parodied more than
More
one.
than words.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that's the X factor because
That,
ultimately these are all just words, but there's a quality of a poem in your experience where you have this physical reaction to it, where it's more than just the words here. There's something else happening here, even if you can't quite put your finger on it. It's more than words.
yeah, fascinating. Yeah, languages, man. I love it.
And we should play with languages, just like we should play with AI. Like the best way to get something of value out of these tools is by exploration and play. Exploration and play. You get to learn where the bounds are. You get to learn, I'm safe to go in this direction, not safe to go in that direction. You, again, it's a greenfield open space and you get to feel your way around it.
Yeah. The are yours. Stay curious.
Stay curious. Don't be afraid to fail. And if you do encounter failure, don't let that be the point where you say, oh, this tool sucks. You shut down. You push through it because you've learned something new. Um, we become afraid of failure in this society
Oh yeah.
in many ways. And I think it's one reason at least is a function of our education system, where if you do fail, the stakes are really high. Like if you get an F, the stakes are really, really high. We don't take that as an opportunity to say, okay, like I've learned, I identified an area where I'm not so strong in. Let's take time to get stronger in that area. Instead, we may do things like, okay, I'm recognizing that I am not strong in that area. So in order to pass, in order to get a passing mark, I have to pretend or I have to just fake it until I make it just to get past the point where this is no longer, I'm no longer being tested on this thing.
Right.
And I think that removes the opportunity for truly learning, like integrating information into our being, into our minds.
Yeah. So yeah, that I whoever said what is the quote? It's only a failure if you haven't learned anything, right? So if you do something and it didn't produce the expected results, the desired results, did you learn something about it?
Yeah.
Right? If you did, it's not a failure. You've learned one way that does not yield these results.
Yeah.
It may work just fine for a different set of expectations, not for that one.
Not for this one.
Do you know the expectation? What were the so that's the other thing. Like when you consider a failure, right? uh, th- is it compared to what standards, to what expectations? Were the expectations clear? Because sometimes there's that thing. It's like, well, yeah, I did this thing here and I failed. Okay, how so? Well, it was we were expecting this. Did you know that? Was that clear to you before starting? Because sometimes this is what I learned is like, well, yeah, after doing the thing, experiencing the thing, then I realized, well, these should be the expectations, which I didn't have when I first started.
Yes,
So that's not a failure.
I would agree. Um, I just think we have a poor relationship with the word failure.
Yeah.
I think if we fail at something, maybe we're confusing that with us being failures or something.
Yeah. 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 This other thing I picked from some some book, I guess. You're not your work, right? So if when you're like critiquing, not criticizing the work, you're critiquing the work, not you.
Yeah.
And I see, oh, this is yeah, I often hear both from book authors, right, writers, and musicians, where they say when they like say a musician, a band works for sometimes like 3 years, 4 years, writing an album, rehearsing, practicing to make sure that they have the performance down, recording, mixing, doing all of that, putting it out. That takes years,
Yes.
right? By the time people are consuming that music, those artists are not the same people anymore,
That's right.
but they're being criticized oftentimes based on that. It's not even critique. There's like, oh yeah, that sucks. Look at, there, and it's like the whole, well, now they're saying, yeah, the last album is not as good as the one before that. Like different people, different points in time,
Yes. Different experiences.
right? Different experiences. And even like, oh, that's their latest album. Yeah, they wrote that, they recorded that 2 years ago. They are like already working in new material. So when I hear that from musicians, and I was like, yeah, that strikes a chord. That is so true.
You're being held to an unrealistic expectation, an unrealistic standard. You're expected to be who you used to be,
Yeah.
and that's not fair.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Fascinating. It is.
But it is what it is. It is what it is. I think we live, we learn, we grow, and we should give other people grace to grow as well. So, if a person, for example, holds an opinion that is different from an opinion that they used to hold, you shouldn't hold that old opinion over their head. You used to think this. What happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I like
I
that.
think there's more value in exploring that moment to say, okay, how did you shift from the old thing to the new thing? It's a conversation opportunity.
I like that. And that's yes, and that's an example that I bring of like insights that I see in my own blog history.
Yeah.
Where if people like today somebody asked me, "Hey Claudio, what do you think about comments in code?"
Mhm.
I'll tell you like today what my process is, what I believe is the right thing to do or the best thing to do. But oh, I saw a blog post of yours where that was not the case. Like, yeah, maybe it was a blog post from like 17 years ago. And I documented that on my blog. And I tell people about this. Like, look, today, if I have this, like when people say, oh, code comments, and I get all like in this lively conversation because I'm saying, okay, this is what I came up with. This is the opinion that I've held now for a number of years, but it didn't start there. And you can look at this blog post where I blog like an opposite opinion to this.
Yes.
So how did I change to like it's documented, right? And I can go back and I can instead of defaulting to say, "Oh, this is how I've always done it."
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's not how I've always done it. That's how I used to do, and this is how it changed over time.
Yes.
And the reasons, like what shifted those reasons.
I think that's more important, that story.
Yeah.
Because you have 2 points of data, like where you used to be, where you are, and what ties those together is the story between time that passed and what happened, what changed to inform.
What happened, what triggered,
What triggered.
right? What were the triggers? And that's another important thing. Like whenever you make changes, what triggered those changes so that once you understand that, if you have the same triggers in the future, now you have data to back you up to know how do you react when you have such a trigger.
Yeah.
And even like maybe have the foresight, right? Of like, am I still gonna react in the same way? Because by the time we hit that mark,
That's right.
years have gone, you may react in a different way.
Yes. Again, this is the beauty of journaling consistently because you have all of this historical data to work with instead of your memory, which isn't always so reliable. It just
It
isn't.
is not oh, and for anybody interested, read the book called The Invisible Gorilla. It's the book that comes to mind when like when we think about like memories and how our memories actually operate and how they trick us when we say, I saw that. And then you go back to like camera footage and stuff. It's like
And
that's
see the
not
gorilla dancing in the background. That's an even more extreme example because this is something that happened today, even, and you don't have a good memory of it.
yeah. It's like it has just happened and you just didn't see because you were focused on something,
Yeah.
right? You might swear like, an oath to something that you saw or didn't see or how it happened. And it may sound really convincing. And then you see like footage or
Yeah.
other accounts from other people who were also there.
Yes.
Well, that's not at all what happened.
Well, that's not what I remember.
That's not what I remember, how I remember it, or it's not what I saw. Like
Yes.
from my perspective, I saw a boat from the side. It was actually a very long ship.
Yeah.
Uh, nice. Very cool, man. Well, on that note, do we have any parting words to wrap this up?
Um, if ever you're facing a blank page, use your voice.
Yeah, I like that. Get it out. Whether it's using your voice, like really voicing it out, or if you feel more comfortable writing it, the important thing is like
Get it out.
get it out. Stop thinking. It's like just get it out in front of you. Because if you write it, you have it in front of you. If you say it, it's gonna echo back to you, right? And if you choose to record, like say it out loud, record, listen back to it.
Yeah.
See how it's gonna sound. Just that flipping perspective is already invaluable.
Agreed.
I like it. Thanks. Well, for joining me one more time.
Until next time.
See you guys next time. All right.